I used to believe that if you were kind to people, they'd be kind in return. That if you supported others, they'd stand by you too. But I was wrong. Painfully wrong. My name is Alina, and a year ago, I thought I had everything a woman could ask for. A stable job I loved, a fiancé who adored me, and a best friend who felt like family. Her name was Sana. Beautiful, charming, confident, and a liar, hiding behind the sweetest smile I'd ever seen. We met at work 2 years ago. She had just joined the marketing team, full of energy and ambition. From the moment she spoke, people seemed drawn to her. She had this effortless way of making everyone feel special. I admired that. I was the quieter one. Organized, serious, focused. Somehow, we balanced each other out. She brought color into my routine, and I gave her direction when things got messy. Or, at least, that's what I thought. We became inseparable. Lunch breaks together, coffee after work, late-night calls sharing dreams and secrets. I trusted her more than anyone else in my life. So when I got promoted to team leader, she was the first person I hugged. "You deserve it, girl," she said, grinning from ear to ear. I believed her. I thought she meant it. But behind that perfect smile, there was something I didn't see. Envy. It started small. A missing report here, a wrong file there. Once, a presentation I'd been preparing for weeks disappeared from the shared drive. Sana was the only one who had access, but I didn't think twice. I simply redid it. I told myself accidents happen, but deep down, something felt off. Then the whispers began. People started acting strange around me. Conversations would stop when I entered the room. My boss, who used to update me daily, suddenly began excluding me from meetings. It felt like everyone knew something I didn't. And then, my personal life began to unravel. My fiancé, Hamza, who used to text me every hour, started getting distant. His replies turned shorter. His excuses grew longer. "Work's been crazy," he'd say. But I knew something wasn't right. One night, as I scrolled through my phone, trying to distract myself from the uneasiness, I stumbled on something that made my heart drop. It was a message from Sana to Hamza. She wrote, "She doesn't deserve you. You could do so much better." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands went cold. My body froze. I read it again and again, hoping it was some kind of misunderstanding. But it wasn't. Sana, my best friend, was sneaking behind my back. Not just at work, but in my relationship. The betrayal hit like a punch to the chest. My mind flooded with questions. How long had this been happening? Did Hamza reply? Were they meeting behind my back? I couldn't sleep that night. I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every little moment, every compliment she gave me, every time she said, "You're like a sister to me." It all felt like poison now. Sweet on the surface, deadly underneath. I wanted to confront her right then, to scream, to demand answers. But something inside me stopped. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe instinct. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. Sometimes, silence is the sharpest weapon. Let her believe I was blind. Let her think she'd won. Because when people show you their true colors, you don't argue. You observe. And when the time is right, you act. That night, I promised myself one thing. I would not be her victim. Not anymore. She thought she was clever, that she could play me, manipulate me, and walk away untouched. But she had no idea who she was dealing with. That night wasn't the end of my story. It was just the calm before the storm. Over the next few weeks, Sana's mask began to crack. The woman who once called me her sister was slowly revealing the face she had been hiding all along. She started doing little things that seemed harmless to everyone else, but I could see her pattern. She would accidentally copy the boss in emails, where I supposedly made small mistakes, always making me look a little careless. Then came the gossip. She would whisper to others that I had changed after my promotion, that I was becoming arrogant, self-centered, and difficult to work with. At first, people didn't say anything to me, but their eyes said enough. They didn't trust me anymore. I tried to brush it off, hoping that keeping quiet would make the rumors fade. But instead, my silence gave her more power. She was weaving a story about me, thread by thread, until everyone saw the version of me she created, instead of who I really was. Sana knew exactly what she was doing. She had charm, manipulation, and perfect timing. She could smile at your face and stab your reputation in the same breath. And then there was Hamza, the man I thought would stand by me through anything. He started pulling away slowly, so quietly that I almost missed it. A cancelled date here, a short reply there, a sudden "I'm busy" excuse. He stopped making time for me, stopped listening, stopped caring. Every time I brought it up, he said I was overthinking, but I could feel it. The distance between us growing wider, and Sana's shadow filling that space. One afternoon, I went to the break room to grab a coffee, and that's when I heard it. My name. I froze behind the door listening. It was Sana's voice, calm, playful, poisonous. She was telling one of our colleagues that I had flirted my way into my promotion. She said I used charm to get ahead, that I wasn't as innocent as I pretended to be. The worst part, the other person laughed. They believed her. My heart pounded so hard I could barely think. I stepped into the room, pretending I hadn't heard, but my voice came out sharper than I intended. "Sana," I said, "if you're going to ruin my reputation, at least be creative." Her face didn't change. For a moment, I thought she'd deny it or act embarrassed, but she didn't. Instead, she gave me that same sly, confident smile, the one she always wore when she knew she had control. "Oh, Alina," she said softly, "you always think you're so perfect. Let's see how long that lasts." That was when it finally hit me. She wasn't just jealous. She wanted my life, my job, my fiancé, my peace, everything, and she wouldn't stop until she had it. I tried to keep my dignity. I worked harder, stayed polite, and ignored her games. I thought being professional would prove my innocence. But the more I stayed quiet, the more fearless she became. She wanted me to break, to react, to lose control. But I refused to give her that satisfaction. Then, one evening, I got a call from my boss, asking me to come to his office immediately. When I walked in, HR was sitting there too. The air was thick with tension. I remember the words clearly. "Alina, we've received a complaint against you." I felt my stomach twist. They accused me of leaking confidential company data. They had screenshots, emails, attachments, all fake, all perfectly crafted, and on one of them, buried in the file details, was a name that made my blood run cold: Saina Malik. I tried to explain, but I could see it in their eyes. They didn't believe me. The trust was gone. They suspended me, told me I'd be contacted once the investigation was complete. I walked out of that office numb, holding back tears. That night, I called Hamza, hoping he'd listen, hoping he'd stand by me. He didn't answer. I called again and again. Hours later, I got a message from him. "I think we should take a break. I need time to think." Just one text, cold and distant. I sat there staring at the screen, realizing that in a matter of days, I had lost everything: my career, my fiancé, and the peace I had spent years building. But as the pain settled, something inside me hardened. She thought she had broken me. She had no idea she had just created the version of me that would make her regret every single lie she told. The first few days felt like drowning. Every call felt heavier than the last. My parents' voices trembled with disappointment, and my friends' messages turned into silence. People who had always been there began to avoid me, as if guilt were contagious. At work, Sana moved through the office like she owned it, sitting in my chair, using my mug, laughing with a confidence that stung. She wore my title like a trophy and acted as if the chaos she'd created was someone else's problem. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed one night, the room lit only by my phone, scrolling through the endless loop of the same accusations in my mind. My throat was tight, and the world felt unreal. For days I had tried to defend myself with words, with logic, hoping truth alone would clear the fog. It didn't. The more I explained, the more distant everyone became. Hurt turned into a cold, steady realization. Pleading wasn't going to help. If anything, it made me look frantic. So I stopped pleading and started looking. I combed through old messages, backups, and dusty email folders I rarely opened. I remembered the morning Sana had asked to borrow my laptop to print something because her system was acting up. At the time, it seemed small and harmless. Now it felt like a clue. I opened my sent folder and froze when I found an email I didn't remember sending. Attachments labeled confidential, sent from my account to an address I didn't recognize. My hands shook as I clicked through the files. They were the same documents the company had flagged. I didn't rush to HR. I knew accusations needed more than panic. They needed proof. I created a new email under a different name and began collecting everything quietly. I took screenshots of timestamps, saved message threads, and copied server logs where I could. An old friend from IT owed me a favor, and when I called, he helped check download logs and IP addresses tied to the files. The pattern was there, clear, deliberate, and damning. The times matched the day Sana used my laptop. The downloads came from an IP that traced back to a device she'd used. Piece by piece, the puzzle fell into place. The documents hadn't simply disappeared from our server. They had been packaged and sent out. Further digging revealed transfers to an account that received regular deposits, small amounts at first, then larger sums. Those deposits lined up with dates when sensitive information had leaked to a competitor. The thought of it made my skin crawl. She had not only framed me, but had been selling company secrets. Realizing that my suspension might have saved me from being accused of something I didn't do felt like a cruel irony. If I'd been at my desk that day, who knew what consequences I might have faced? That knowledge didn't soothe me. It focused me. The hurt that had felt raw and chaotic shifted into a cool, deliberate urge to finish what I'd started. Anger hardened into strategy. I stopped waiting for others to notice the truth and began preparing the evidence that would force them to look. Every screenshot, every log, every timestamp became a weapon of clarity. I planned my next moves carefully: who to approach, how to present the facts, which records would be indisputable. I promised myself I wouldn't act out of spite or desperation. I would be precise. That night, the lonely, helpless version of me disappeared. In its place stood someone who knew how to gather proof and how to make lies unravel under the weight of truth. I was tired of being betrayed. I was done letting someone else write my story. Now, I would write the ending. I needed proof, something undeniable that no one could twist or deny. Words had failed me before, and explanations had only made me look desperate. This time, I wouldn't rely on anyone's belief. I would create my own truth and make sure it spoke louder than her lies. So I built a plan that mirrored hers. Manipulative, clever, and disguised behind a smile. I sat at my desk late into the night, creating a new identity from scratch. Her name was Mira Shah, a recruiter from a prestigious firm. The LinkedIn profile was flawless. Professional photo, work history, recommendations, and a web of connections that made her look real. I even added fake endorsements and company posts to make the account breathe. Then, I set up a polished email address and crafted a message designed to flatter someone greedy for recognition. When I sent the email to Sana, my fingers trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from anticipation. The message was simple: We're exploring candidates with strong internal knowledge and strategic insight. Your performance has caught our attention. If you can share examples of your work or reports that reflect your value, we could fast-track your application. It was bait disguised as opportunity. And Sana, with her hunger for validation and ambition, took it immediately. Within hours, she replied, her excitement barely contained behind polite words. Of course, I'd be happy to share some internal reports, just to show my capability. The arrogance in her tone was almost satisfying. She didn't hesitate or question the legitimacy of Mira Shah. She only saw a door opening, and she rushed through it. Over the next few days, I watched her dig her own grave. She sent documents with confidential headers, screenshots of internal data, and even voice notes explaining how things worked inside the company. I didn't have to push her. Her pride did the work for me. I recorded every word, every file, every timestamp. I saved the metadata and cross-checked it against the company's document system. It was perfect. Clear proof that she had been leaking information willingly and knowingly. But I wasn't going to make the same mistake she did. Acting out of impulse, I needed to be smart about the delivery. I gathered all the evidence into a single, organized file and wrote a short but direct message from an anonymous email account. I attached the screenshots, the audio recordings, and a summary of the digital trail connecting every piece. Then, I sent it to the HR department with a subject line that would guarantee attention. Evidence of corporate data breach. Urgent review required. The waiting was unbearable. Every hour felt stretched. But on the second day, I sensed a shift. People in the office were whispering, and the HR manager looked unusually tense. By afternoon, I saw her call Sana into a private meeting. I watched from across the hall as Sanna, still confident and oblivious, walked in wearing her usual air of control. An hour later, she came out pale and silent. The same woman who once strutted through the office, laughing as she destroyed my name, couldn't even look anyone in the eye. Her posture had collapsed, her arrogance stripped away. Rumors started spreading almost immediately. The investigation, the suspension, the evidence. The truth had surfaced, and it didn't need me to shout it. I should have felt victorious, but what I felt was quieter. A steady, calm release. The ache that had lived in my chest for weeks began to fade. Watching her face the same humiliation she'd planned for me wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about balance, about the universe tilting back to fairness. When she packed her things and left the office, I didn't follow her with my eyes. I just sat there, breathing deeply, feeling the silence she left behind. For the first time in months, it didn't feel heavy. It felt clean, like a storm finally passing. Revenge hadn't brought rage. It had brought peace. The day she was escorted out of the building, the atmosphere felt heavy, like the whole office was holding its breath. People whispered in corners, pretending to be busy, but everyone's eyes followed her. Sana walked stiffly, her confidence fractured, but not completely gone. She tried to keep her head high, her expression unreadable, yet I could see the panic flickering behind her eyes. As she approached the exit, our eyes met. For a moment, the noise of the office disappeared, and it was just the two of us, standing on the remains of everything that had happened. Her face twisted with anger and disbelief. "You did this to me," she spat, her voice trembling with rage. I stood still, calm, no longer shaken by her words or her presence. "No," I said quietly. "You did this to yourself." Her glare sharpened, venom replacing the cracks in her pride. "You'll regret this, Alina," she hissed. I smiled faintly, not mocking, just certain. "I already did," I replied. "But not anymore." She turned away abruptly, her heels echoing down the hall until the sound faded. Watching her leave felt like exhaling after months of holding my breath. There was no satisfaction in seeing her escorted out. No sense of triumph or revenge. What I felt instead was release, the quiet, steady relief of knowing that justice had finally caught up with her. The following week, I received an email from HR. I had been reinstated. The company had reviewed the case, and they issued a formal apology, admitting their mistake. The same people who once avoided me now greeted me with cautious smiles, and the same office that had felt suffocating began to feel familiar again when my boss called me in. His expression was heavy with guilt. "Alina," he said, "we're deeply sorry. You handled this situation with dignity. Not many would have." I nodded, keeping my composure, though inside I felt a mixture of gratitude and exhaustion. His words couldn't erase what had happened, but they reminded me that patience had finally paid off. Walking back into my office was surreal. The desk was the same, the coffee mug still in its place, but everything felt different. This time, I didn't see reminders of betrayal. I saw proof of survival. Every step I took felt like reclaiming a part of myself that she had tried to erase. The stares, the whispers, the doubt, none of it mattered anymore. The truth had done what it was supposed to do. Later that evening, as I packed my things to go home, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Hamza. For a second, I hesitated before opening it. "I'm sorry," it read. "I should have trusted you." Just a single sentence. Simple, but far too late. I stared at the screen for a long moment, remembering everything. The nights of silence, the unanswered calls, the cold distance he'd built between us. Part of me had once wanted this apology, maybe even craved it. But now, looking at the words, I realized I didn't feel anything. No joy, no pain, no anger. Just clarity. Without a second thought, I deleted the message. My hand didn't even tremble. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. The kind that doesn't need drama or confrontation. Just quiet certainty that you've outgrown the hurt. When I stepped outside the building, the air felt lighter. The city hummed around me, indifferent but alive, and for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I had faced betrayal, loss, humiliation, and yet I was still standing, stronger, wiser, freer. The storm that had once surrounded me was gone. All that remained was calm. And in that calm, I finally found myself again. Months drifted by, soft and unhurried. Like a deep exhale, after holding my breath for too long, life found its balance again. Though I wasn't the same woman I had been before everything fell apart, the chaos had carved something new inside me. Stronger, quieter, more deliberate. I no longer chased approval or worried about what others thought. I worked with focus, built my days with intention, and allowed myself to feel proud again without guilt. At work, the whispers stopped. People treated me with respect now, not because they pitied me, but because I had earned it. When my promotion came through, it didn't feel like revenge or redemption. It felt right. My boss shook my hand and said, "You've proven what strength looks like." I smiled, not out of pride, but out of peace. I had fought the hardest battles in silence, and now I could finally breathe freely. Each morning became lighter. I started enjoying simple things again. The sound of my coffee brewing, the way sunlight filled my office, the comfort of knowing that I belonged there. The fear that used to twist my stomach was gone. I didn't flinch when someone mentioned Sana's name or when an old memory crept in. I had faced everything I feared and walked through it. There was nothing left to run from. Sana's name faded slowly from conversation. Her reputation didn't survive the scandal. Rumors came and went. That she couldn't find another job. That she moved to another city. That she'd tried to start over, but failed. I didn't verify any of it. I didn't need to. The truth had already done what it was meant to do. She had written her own ending. I didn't celebrate it, but I didn't mourn it either. I just let it be. She had made her choices, and so had I. Sometimes, though, her face flashed in my memory. Confident, calculating, pretending to be my friend. But the anger was gone. What replaced it was a quiet understanding of how fragile ambition becomes when it's fueled by envy. I almost felt sorry for her. She could have succeeded without betrayal, but she chose the easy path, and it cost her everything. One afternoon, as I was sorting through my emails, I noticed a message with no subject line. I opened it out of habit. The words were short, sharp, and familiar. I lost everything. I hope you're happy. There was no signature, no name, but I didn't need to guess. I sat still for a while, reading it again and again, waiting for a feeling. Anger, guilt, satisfaction. But nothing came. It was just words from a ghost, still trapped in the past. I closed the laptop and leaned back, watching the world outside my window move on. People crossing streets, laughter echoing from a cafe, sunlight bouncing off car roofs. Life didn't pause for anyone's regrets. It never had. That night, I walked home feeling lighter than I had in years. The city lights shimmered like distant stars. And for the first time, I felt completely untethered. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need revenge. I had already won the only battle that mattered, the one within myself. Revenge had ended the day I stopped caring about her downfall and started focusing on my rise. I realized the real victory was never about making someone pay. It was about learning, healing, and choosing not to carry the poison they left behind. And as I stood there, breathing in the cool night air, I knew I wasn't her victim anymore. I was my own redemption. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. I learned that the hard way. Sometimes, the people who cheer the loudest when you rise are the same ones waiting for you to fall. I used to believe that being kind, honest, and hardworking was enough to keep good people around me. I thought loyalty guaranteed loyalty. But betrayal has a strange way of finding you, through the very doors you opened with trust. When Sana entered my life, I saw her as a sister I never had. We shared everything, dreams, fears, secrets. I believed her friendship was real, that her laughter was genuine. I was wrong. Behind her compliments hid comparisons, and behind her support lived envy. She wanted my success, my peace, even my love, and she almost took it all. For a long time, I asked myself why. Why would someone destroy another person who had done nothing but care for them? But then I realized, envy isn't logical. It's a disease of the soul, one that feeds on insecurity and resentment. I stopped searching for reasons, because some people hurt others, not because of who you are, but because of what they can never be. After everything she did, people asked me if I ever felt satisfied seeing her fall. The truth? I didn't. Watching her lose everything wasn't joyful. It was sad. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. Because in the end, she lost something far greater than her job or her reputation. She lost herself. And that's a kind of ruin no one can recover from. For me, the real victory wasn't in seeing her punished. It was in surviving what she tried to destroy. It was in walking back into that office, with my head high, knowing I didn't sink to her level. I fought back, but I fought smart. I didn't scream or beg for justice. I built it, piece by piece, until the truth spoke louder than her lies. That's what changed everything. There's power in silence. I learned that too. You don't always have to expose people with confrontation. Sometimes you just have to let their own actions uncover them. Lies crumble under their own weight. Truth doesn't rush. It waits. And when it appears, it doesn't ask for attention. It simply stands tall. That's exactly what happened with Sana. Her lies caught up to her, just like they always do. Now, months later, I live differently. I'm not the same woman I was before all this. I'm stronger, calmer, more aware. I no longer give everyone access to my trust. I protect my peace like it's sacred, because it is. I've learned that boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. They keep your heart safe, while letting the right people in. Sometimes, when I think about her, I feel a quiet sense of gratitude. Not for the pain, but for the lesson. She taught me to see through masks, to listen between words, to trust actions over promises. She reminded me that kindness without wisdom is weakness, and forgiveness doesn't mean allowing someone back into your life. It means freeing yourself from their shadow. So no, I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't walk that same road or seek the same revenge. Because true revenge isn't about making someone suffer. It's about standing taller than they ever expected you to. It's about rebuilding yourself so powerfully that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. And when I finally understood that, I stopped carrying the anger. I let it go. I didn't win because she lost. I won because I healed. The truth didn't just expose her. It freed me. And in the end, that's the sharpest revenge of all. Life has a strange way of revealing truth when you least expect it. I once thought revenge was about striking back, proving someone wrong, or making them feel the pain they caused. But over time, I learned that real revenge isn't loud or cruel. It's silent, patient, and powerful. It's about standing tall when everyone expects you to fall apart. It's about smiling again when the world thought it had broken you for good. When Santa tried to ruin me, I thought my story was over. I felt helpless, angry, humiliated, all at once. But pain has a purpose. It shapes you into someone you never imagined you could be. Slowly, I stopped focusing on her and started focusing on myself. I rebuilt my reputation, one small step at a time. I worked harder, stayed true to who I was, and refused to let bitterness poison me. Every morning, I woke up determined to live better than the day before. And one day, I realized something profound. I no longer cared about revenge. I cared about peace. Sana's actions didn't destroy me. They transformed me. She thought she could take away everything that mattered. My job, my love, my dignity. Instead, she pushed me towards strength I didn't know I had. She became the reason I discovered what self-respect truly means. I used to think forgiveness meant letting someone back in. Now I know it simply means letting go, freeing yourself from the weight of their betrayal. I never responded to her last message, the one where she said she'd lost everything, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because there was nothing left to say. My silence was the closure. My peace was the answer. She didn't deserve space in my mind anymore. I'd already moved on. Revenge would have kept me tied to her forever. Letting go set me free. Sometimes I still think about the journey, the fear, the humiliation, the loneliness. But mostly, I think about how it shaped me, how it forced me to stop being the woman who tried to please everyone and start being the woman who lived by her own truth. That's what betrayal does. It burns away the illusions and leaves behind only what's real. And what was real was my strength. People often say that karma takes care of everything. I used to doubt that, but now I understand. Life balances itself out. You don't need to chase revenge. The truth always finds its way through. It doesn't explode. It unfolds quietly, piece by piece, until everyone sees what they need to see. I didn't destroy Sana. She destroyed herself. All I did was let the truth breathe. Today, when I walk into my office, I don't think about the rumors or the lies. I think about how far I've come. I think about the woman I became because of everything that happened. A woman who doesn't beg to be understood, who doesn't justify her worth, who knows that strength isn't in fighting back, but in staying grounded when the world tries to shake you. If someone asked me what revenge truly means, I'd say it's not about hurting someone back. It's about healing yourself so deeply that their actions no longer have power over you. It's about rising so high that their memory can't reach you. That's the kind of revenge that lasts. The quiet kind that comes with peace, dignity, and freedom. Sana wanted to ruin me. Instead, she became the reason I learned how to rebuild myself. Stronger, wiser, and completely unbreakable. That's the truth. That's the victory. And that's the sweetest revenge of all. to live well, to live free, and to never let darkness dim your light again.